Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it is time for part 4 of the Monday Q&As. So let's get to the first question. Deficit deadlifts. After main heavy sets beneficial, or just do deficit deads as a main exercise? I would rather see these done as a main exercise. You're doing them as an accessory movement after you've done heavy deadlifts. You're going to be very fatigued and it's going to vastly reduce the weight. You can use, the whole point of the deficit deadlift is to build power with a heavy weight off the floor if that's where your weak point is, and they can work wonders in strengthening up the hamstrings a bit more than the conventional deadlift. But in order to really truly get that benefit, you've got to be using them with a relatively heavy weight, and I think you're going to get better nervous system carryover for that if you're doing them when you're fresh enough to use a heavy weight. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't do them after as an accessory and get some of the benefit. You probably could, and I'm sure a lot of people have successfully programmed this. It's just that, in my opinion, for most people, I think you're going to get more out of them if you do them as your first heavy pull in a workout. So you would do them in place of your deadlifts, not necessarily in addition to. But that's just my personal philosophy on it. I'm sure there are coaches and successful elite lifters who completely disagree. All right, next question. For bodybuilding purposes, what's the point in progressively increasing workload volume when max hypertrophy can be reached in the first 3 sets? Well, because we're talking about maximum hypertrophy if you're actually stimulating additional overload. You could do that easily with sometimes less than 3 sets. But the issue is that we stagnate, and progressively increasing volume is more for slightly advanced lifters. This is not something you would waste your time with if you're in your first year of lifting. If you only deadlift 400 pounds for a few reps, it's probably a waste of time, because you can use different types of progression to make faster progress. But when someone is getting a little more advanced and they stall and they can't increase their lift, you're doing 3 sets and you can't add weight. You can't add reps. By adding the volume, you will start, by adding more sets, you will start to stimulate new growth and new adaptation purely through workload, and it will stimulate a little bit of hypertrophy. Once you've stimulated that hypertrophy, you should be able to scale those sets back, and you will find that you can either add a little weight or a little bit of reps again to that same lift, and then progress again. So that's the whole idea. It's really what I would call a third means of breaking through a plateau when you're not progressing on either the weight you can use or the reps you can use with a given weight. So it's just another way to stimulate additional hypertrophy when you've stalled and you're not growing and adapting from your current workload. By adding the extra workload, stimulates a little bit more, and then you can start pushing the others again. So your question is really, the concept with the 3 sets is a bit reductionist in thinking. That is true as long as you're making progress over time. Absolutely, you can grow very well off a single set, and definitely near maximum gains off 3 sets. But again, it comes back to, are you stalling or not? If you're stalling, you're going to have to do something to progress a little further sometimes, and that's where it comes in handy. All right, next question. How to give more emphasis, activate better the teardrop, inner lower quads, on squats. Change your style of squat. If you're finding that your upper thigh is getting more development and your posterior chain than your lower quad down here, you probably need to go to more of an Olympic style high bar squatting. If that seems to be lagging, then do straight up high bar Olympic style squatting, which means fairly narrow stance, feet no wider than shoulder width, and a high bar. The bar should be resting up on top of your traps. You do that for a while and you will find that that will stimulate that. In fact, that is probably, at least in my opinion, the best lift for bringing that part of the thigh up. That should give you massive teardrops. You show me someone who can Olympic squat 500 pounds, and that person will have massive teardrops that are almost hanging over their knees. They will have top-level bodybuilder lower quads. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.